whether it's, just starting day one, but
Yeah.
we're talking about scaling this and reinvesting this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's brilliant. I love that. So I tell you what came up for me though when I saw like the private equity investor and the oh sorry, I have my notes here, strategic business coach. Okay, I thought, oh, this is hard. It's going to be hard to learn, stocks or, investing and bonds and the market. Um, it's going to be hard. But I also have trained myself to know and understand that I can do hard things. And
Amen.
but that doesn't mean it's not scary. So, what's the process that either I don't know if you teach this process or you encourage people, how how should people or what do you recommend people do in order to start to educate themselves so that they don't just come in cold turkey and you know know nothing.
Well, I will be very honest in what I know and I don't know, right? Because then there are people that I pay to know, right? You have to know when to carve things out that are outside of your skill set. So I don't necessarily invest my own stocks. I do play around with my own a little bit, and that's gone well this year. The one thing I will give Trump, right? Like my stocks went well the last couple of years, but there are a lot of other avenues for reinvestment. I personally like land, right? And that was just always a thing for me and my partner. So we dug deep into researching what land looks like. We looked on YouTube, right? Courses like the people who talk like you and have these blogs and things of that nature. And then we went and researched by calling real estate attorneys who would take free consultation calls and simply asking our questions. People usually don't know that you could just call an accountant, call an attorney, and just ask. People will give you a free 15 minutes of your time, and they were able to kind of point us in the right direction. We learned very quickly that every single state we were going to have to do this in because it's all different. But then it's all about really just asking the questions and determining where you want to see your money. Commodities is a little easier because you can just simply, you're tracking, right? What is the price of the gold? What is the worth? What is the long term value? That's a little easier to look at over time. There's different ways to do that, whether it's investing into gold and silver and commodities that way, or and getting your lump sum cash in your hand, and finding a place to hide it, or just doing it in terms of stocks and so on and so forth. And I also have a financial advisor who takes care of a lot of my stocks. My husband loves stocks. He spends all day researching them. That's his thing. I play with them just a little bit, but that's honestly not my thing. I look towards my financial advisor to see where and often people don't know this either. Financial advisors tend to not cost you money. They work on behalf of how they invest your money, right? And so a lot of people think I don't have the money for a financial advisor. Nobody's going to pay attention. I can't afford it. You can go get them with the $3.50 that you have, right? And they have to just kind of work with that.
Mhm.
So getting a financial advisor early is extremely beneficial.
One of the things, as you're talking, what's coming up for me is when I read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, one of the things that kind of blew my mind was he said um, that his rich dad had a team. And it impressed me so much because he said, at any given time, or like once a month or once a quarter, he'd have a meeting with his accountant, the financial advisor, the lawyer, the this, the that. And I thought, like, I want that. I will know that I'm rich when I have, not even rich, like I
And
will
make
know.
before too.
Yeah, exactly. When I'm able to pull all of those people in to tell me what to do with my money and make me richer. And he conveyed this idea that, look, it's not your job to know everything, it's your job to
Exactly.
know who to hire. And, you hire people that are smarter than you in these areas where you need help and support. And I think for a lot of us, not just social workers, but we maybe feel insecure, like we're supposed to know everything. And why don't we get this? Oh, and then we beat up on ourselves because we see other people succeeding and we feel like something's wrong with us. And so I really appreciate you sharing that you have these people. So just to clarify, can you just identify who are the people that you have in your team? I know you have your partner, but who are the people that you have in your team to help you with creating wealth?
So we joke. I think it was our second year in business, because no, our third year in business because we took a very bad hit our second year in business. we learned to pay our lawyers well, right? We didn't do that in the beginning. We got cheaper lawyers.
Uh,
And so now our lawyers get paid $5.50 an hour minimum. Jesus help us.
you
But
said 550, like five, not $5.50, $550.
I know you
And
want to talk to my lawyers on my behalf and advocate for me because they're killing me. They're killing me. But we learned the hard way. Year one in business, we were balling. Year two in business, we took a 100K hit on a poorly written contract. We stopped paying these lawyers $150 an hour and went and got the big dogs after that, right? Because we had to. We learned the hard way after we cried and decided that we weren't going to be having passive ideations. We decided to keep going in business and we kept going. But so we have lots of lawyers. I want to be really clear that get called in for different things, right? We have a lawyer who does just our operational agreements and contracts. One thing that I see with coaching clients that come to me that scare me is that they've literally paid 6 coaches in the last year to find clarity, but they Google their operating agreement. And I just want to lay hands on them and say, you got to take that to God. It just doesn't make sense, right? You got to pay the people who know what they're doing. So we have one that just does contract writing. We have healthcare attorneys because we work in the healthcare industry to determine the legalities of a lot of that stuff. We have a criminal attorney on retainer. Thank God we have never had no charges in our life, but you never know in this field, so we keep one always. We have a trademark attorney. We have a real estate attorney. So there's a team, right? We have our accountants, which is a team in itself. We have the CPA as well as the payroll specialist. So there's an entire team there. We have the accountants, the lawyers. There's a lot of them around. We have
that,
consultants from time to time, depending on if we're embarking in a project that's outside of our scope, things of that nature.
and you've mentioned your business partner. What role do you guys each play in Unorthodox Group?
So usually you'll see my face. She just hides. She simply is just the one that hides. But our roles are very similar and very different. She's a psychologist and definitely comes from, she really, in our praise, purpose, and profits course, she teaches the praise and the purpose. And she really focuses on your growth in that area as a young entrepreneur and really starting off because it's a lot of trials, right? It makes you consider 17 times over, why are we doing this? Is this really what I'm called to do? She focuses on that. I'm the strategist. I come in there and tell you, okay, how are we filing this tax structure? What does this operating agreement need to look like? How do we prioritize distributions? How do we scale this growth? And so there's two sides to this, right? I'm much more strategic and cutthroat, and she's more of the process.
Mm-hmm. So, what does your ideal client look like when they come to you? And I want to, hopefully, for anyone that's watching, I'm hoping that they can hear themselves, hear you talking to them if they are your ideal client.
So I guess an ideal client for me is one that has a very clear idea of what they would like to see their life look like. They may not understand the steps at all on how to get there, but they may say, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to scale this business, and I do want to make money in this. One of the things that I see people call my phone a lot, and especially I will say openly, because I deal with a lot of faith-based entrepreneurs, there seems to be a disconnect between accepting the fact that I can be wealthy and live in God's purpose. And so you are not the right client for me if you question that. I want to be very, very clear about this, right? I teach people how to live in purpose and profit. So my clients look like a person who is ready to go hustle, ready to put in the work, and ready to build a business, strategize, and grow that business.
Mm-hmm.
And they're women. I should say that, right? The men always yell at me, why don't I take a lot of men clients? I only focus on women clients.
Oh, is there a reason for that?
Yes, I'll be very honest because a lot of my hustle is how to work around the men at the table. In our industry, when you're dealing with investors and when you're dealing with Wall Street, it's a lot of men when you're talking about scaling large scale businesses. And I talk about my unorthodox shadow plan. The S in the shadow plan is savvy. How do I deal with these negotiations at the table without being disrespected, without being asked to do things I will not do, with being paid an equal and fair amount? And so that it's not that the skill set is not able to be. I do have unorthodox male clients. They say I never shout them out, but I don't take them on very often because of this. A lot of the crux of what I do is figuring out how to get our voices heard at the table, how to get right negotiating rates, how to be respected and grow operations. And a lot of that is being savvy around men who have systems in place that don't benefit us.
I would expect that it's not just systems in place, but there's also a mindset
There you
that goes
go.
with it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm blown away. I can't wait to hopefully be a part of unorthodox group one day. You heard it here first, folks. I'll let you
Whenever
know.
you're ready.
Yes, we'll let you know. Okay, so what is it that you see the people that come to you, or maybe what you see in the market and in the space? What do people get wrong a lot, and what do they need to know?
The foundation. People tend to skimp on the foundation, and the small things mess them up. Um, I don't want to get a PO box because it costs $30, so I use my home address. Now you got stalkers. I mean, there's a lot of these small things that we don't consider. I decided to just go file an LLC. Where somebody the other day called me and said I filed an Inc. Why? What would make you want to go file the Inc? I don't know. I want it to be large one day. That's not the reason. So we got to really focus on how do we establish these businesses for success from the beginning? And if they're not at the beginning stages, how do we correct these very early so that we have the foundation for growth? A lot of people just don't have the ability to scale because what they built wasn't scalable. And so you have to consider that from the beginning. What other avenues do I have to grow? Or am I willing to embark on avenues that I'm not touching in order?
Mm-hmm. Is there a question that you wish more people would ask?
Yes, simply for help.
Mm.
Right? I think I take a lot of free calls. I mean, I'm not trying to do this all day. I have a very set calendar for that.
Yeah.
But there are a million people willing to help and point you in the right direction. I get scared when people tell me literally that by the time they call my phone, I paid 3 coaches and I still haven't figured this out. Why? Why are you guys not interviewing coaches? Why are we not researching the compliance directives? Why are we not pulling state regulations? We can do this, especially as social workers. We are hustlers. We are innovative. We think outside of the box, right? And sometimes we need a guidance or a push, but not, a 6 week coach.
Mm-hmm.
Ask somebody for a guidance or a push in the right direction. And then if it can't be accomplished, then that's when we call them the big dogs, right? That's when we ask for the backup. But I would like to see more people really just ask for the help and then get to work doing it. Most people want to hire all these consultants and coaches to build their dream, and it'll never be yours unless you understand
Right.
how to build it.
Right. I think a lot of times, on that note, when I've encountered that too, it goes back to that trusting yourself and trusting that what you want. And I think a lot of times we give away our power or we don't even claim our power, right?
Yep.
And we think to what you just said, we think that someone else has the answers. The great thing about this too, and I think most social workers have this trait, is that we're also givers. So we're not going to be benefited or benefit ourselves without giving to others, which is the whole message of Rich Social Worker. The more money you can make, the more impact you can have.
That's it.
Yeah. And taking stigma. Exactly. So.
I think really we can self-correct that. This is not my grand idea. I just love it so much. I actually got this from Bozoma St. John, VP of Marketing at Netflix. And she's like my role model in life, but that's a whole nother story. But she talks about getting a brag squad, right? Like you need to pick people around you professionally, not your homegirls, right? Like maybe they're your homegirls too, but you want people who are professionally around you, possibly not even in your industry, and you want to have a meeting with these people once a week. Pick 4 or 5, colleagues or whatever, and you're having this quick Zoom meeting once a week, saying, what did you accomplish this week? What are you working on this week? Having these kind of power and think sessions that are only 30 minutes worth, right? You begin to trust yourself more, getting feedback from other people around you who are non-judgmental, who are on your side, who are willing to support you in your growth as you do the same for them. So now you're building up a village, just not building up yourself. It's too hard to do this by ourselves.
Yeah, and it's not necessary.
Like, not necessary.
Why would you want to do that to yourself? It's not necessary. Okay, so I was insightful enough this time around to ask my audience. I told them that you were coming on the channel, and I asked them what they wanted me to ask you. And so I've got two questions for you. Well, two people asked, I think, two questions each. So here we go. One asked, oh, so Gabby from Mind Your Society asked, she says, I'd be interested in knowing how she stays motivated through hard times with running your business and how you discovered your niche.
So there are two questions. So the first thing is motivation, and it goes back to the first question you asked me. It's God. I'm often not motivated. I suffer from imposter syndrome just like everybody else. I literally keep a baby picture of baby Tiff in the mirror, and every day I look at baby Tiff and I say to her, "You're going to be okay. We make it. We do get through this." But life has been extremely difficult for me, I will say, and I keep going back to my source. I keep tapping into God, and I keep saying, "Well, you may have given me all this grief. All these people have been taken from me, but you didn't take me. What's my purpose today? You could have taken me last night. What's my purpose today?" And this is a real conscious exercise I do every day so that I don't lose motivation, that I don't slip into depression, right? And that I remember that there's a reason for me. So to answer the first question is, I consistently try to remind myself that I do have a purpose, even when it's not clear. That in the times that it's not clear, it's my job to go get clarity.
Yes.
So that's how I get motivated, right? And then she had
Yes.
a second question. What was it? I'm so sorry.
How did you figure out your niche?
My niche. I fell into it. I will be very honest in saying that we really, our niche was figuring out how to get insurances to maximize payer reimbursements. That's really what opened up all these doors for us in healthcare. And it was simply finding a problem. So social workers are really good at identifying problems. We look for the root cause analysis in every situation. And so when I kept seeing programs fail, I kept saying, why are they failing? And nobody could understand why they were failing. So I had to figure out why they were failing, just so I could stop the bleed on the problem so I can get back to work. It was never to build, an empire. And so I fell into that, and it kind of really, and I think when we talk about, letting God really have his way in our lives, it spiraled itself from there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And for Gabby and anyone watching, I hope that was informative.
Hopefully it was right, Gabby.
It was clarity. It was clarifying for me. Okay, so the next question is, well, series of questions. Did you do your research on your own in the diverging in business instead of social work? Or was it important to reach out to people who were doing it in order to have a better idea of how to get it done?
100% reaching out to people. What I've learned is that every single industry, down to the subcategories, are so very different, right? So you can research how to become an administrator from social work, or how to go into private practice from social work. But your clientele or your area of the country, all of these things play a part. I really suggest that people find people, right? Or reach out to people, or even research people who they know have done this, LinkedIn, and simply study their trajectory, right? How did they get there? What was their first job? What was their second job? What did they transition into? Because there's usually some sort of transition. Mine went from being a therapist to a clinical director. And then I realized, oh, clinical directors only look at the documentation. They don't understand that the documentation equals the money. So then I realized, oh, I need to be a program director and an operator and then an executive, right? So you kind of have to figure that out as you go, but asking for help along the way, talking to supervisors, whether you like them or not. I tell people all the time, I learned some of my best lessons from my worst supervisors, right? I knew what not to do. I knew that I had to go get it done myself.
Right.
So yes, you can research, and I do suggest you research, even see if it's something of interest to you. But really, networking is going to be significant.
Yeah, and I think to that point as well, I think it, yeah, definitely reach out to people, but it might take some time to figure it out. I think a lot of times we want the quick answer.
You don't have it. I still don't have it, right? This was literally a lifelong process of doing the next right thing. And I think often we want to fix the problem as social workers, and as entrepreneurs and executives, there's never an end to the problem, right? And as social worker, there's never actually an end to the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to be okay with simply adjusting, being flexible, and then determining the level of the problem, right? Is this, a small problem, or is it pervasive, right? Because if it's pervasive, we need to look at it. If it's not, we need to let it roll and get to the next thing.
Okay, so I'm as excited now, 46 minutes in, as I was when we started. But I also know that my viewers have they have some things to do, and I feel like we've given them quite a lot with this conversation. So I'd love for you though to share how people can get in touch with you, some of the resources that you might have for them, and yeah, and anything that you think is important to share in this moment, please.
So, really fast, I know we got to jump off of here. I honestly want to leave this with just giving a blessing to everybody, right? If you're watching this show, it means that you're ready to take the next step in your life, no matter what that looks like. And so I pray that God blesses that journey and the God of your understanding blesses that journey along the way. But if you need to get in touch with me at any time, I ask you, please go follow me on Instagram, unorthodox_group. We are on Facebook, Unorthodox Group. Our website, www, old school style, unorthodoxgroup.com. And I have free consultations on my website. So if you ever have a question or you just need 15 minutes to just bounce an idea, I'm very open to that. I do think that that's part of my purpose. So don't feel bad for asking me a question. I encourage you to. That is all. Thank you so much for having me. This was so awesome. I love your energy.
I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for being so present and generous with your information and advice. And viewers, this is for you. So thank you again so much. I can't say it enough. And for all of my viewers, I believe you can dream, be, do, or have anything you want, but it starts with your mindset. So make sure it's a rich one. See you next time.